1966 was a hugely successful year. The Michigan Republican Party, you won back almost everything you'd lost 2 years before. You got the governorship, you got all these congressmen, you got a U.S. senator, you win control of the state senate, you're tied in the House. But then there was a special election in the spring of 1967 because a Democratic state representative unexpectedly died in office. Tell me a little bit about that.
Denny Hammond was the chairman of the 17th Congressional District, and the Kowalski seat was in the 17th District, which is in northwest Detroit. I had been the campaign coordinator in the 66 election, which was the genius of Ellie. Not that it was I, but she convinced Romney that all the campaigns had to run as one. And so instead of Romney for governor, it was an action team for an action state. And I was still in that position, so Hammond called me and said, I think we can win this thing. I said, Denny, you're out of your mind. No, he said, I think I can. Don't forget, small turnout in general elections. I want to make a run for this. I said, okay, let's go. And we poured everything we had into that thing. And we were down there 4 or 5 nights a week in Licata. Licata was a businessman from Plymouth, I believe. He was a member of the Republican State Central Committee. No political experience really at all. We put together such a campaign. And I hate, excuse me everybody for mentioning it now, among other things, we devised the first telemarketing campaign in history. With the help of Michigan Bell, we devised a system where we could call homes at night, and George Romney, when they picked up the phone, George Romney would tell them, this is Governor Romney, I'm asking you to vote for Tony Licata. And it was amazing.
You think this is about the first time any political party had really done something like this anywhere in the country?
As far as we know, it is the first. We don't know of any other, and nor did Michigan Bell. Anyways, the Saturday before the election, the Democrats thought we're crazy, wasting all this. Hoffa, he's going to be, this is the son of Jimmy Hoffa.
Well, Hoffa had won a multi-candidate Democratic primary.
Right.
And of course, one of the things the Republicans used against him was he really was not a native of the district. He had kind of moved into the district to run for the seat. So you kind of used the carpetbagger charge against him, didn't you?
But on the Saturday before, I think there was 21 Republican legislators from all over the state. Romney, Senator Griffin, Lieutenant Governor Milliken, all of them came down. I think we knocked on just about every single door in the district and asking people to vote for us.
Right.
Wow. Come election night, Tony Licata upsets Jimmy. It was great for, but you know what we think? Time Magazine, Newsweek, all the magazines picked up. This was the magic of George Romney. He was the guy to carry the flag against the Democrats in 1968.
Right.
And it was,
So it ended up being as big or more of a plus for Romney almost than it was for everybody else. And that gave the Republicans a 56th seat in the House, so that they had a 56-54 edge rather than just a tie, even though they had elected already the Speaker, whose name was Bob Waldron, who was a state representative from Grosse Pointe. What kind of a staff did Bob Waldron have in those days?
Well, I love this. Bob Waldron had a secretary. Her name was Nell Taylor from Charlotte. And he had a field man. Guy's name is Steve Stockmeyer, the kid from University of Michigan who called me before for the Romney thing.
Yeah.
And that was all. And each legislator, each three legislators shared every legislator shared with 2 other legislators a secretary.
Yeah, 3 legislators to each secretary.
I mean, that's what it was back in 1960.
Right. Compared to
the enormous
what it's grown into
number of
today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back again just a little bit, Bill Milliken, of course, won his second term as lieutenant governor with George Romney in 1966. But 2 years before, he'd not only been elected with George Romney, he was nominated at a Republican state convention as lieutenant governor in a very close contest with Allison Green, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Tell me a little bit about that election. How close was it?
The party was taking sides. It never was a vicious thing, but it was a tough one. We want Green, we want a Milliken. Milliken, to me, seemed to be the future of the party. Allison Green was a wonderful man. I think he was from the thumb. He was a farmer. But I didn't see him 10 years from now being a party leader. I did with Bill Milliken. I had got the Macomb County delegation committed to him and told him that. The convention started on Friday. On Thursday, my bride, Janet, delivered our third son, Timothy. I had to promise her that I would stay and watch the other two boys, and so I couldn't go to the convention. I had everything lined up, and I still think I have a telephone growing out of my ear because Friday night I was never off the phone talking to people. There was all kinds of rumors that I didn't really want Milliken, and so there was all attempts to hijack the delegation.
The Allison Green were trying to steal the Macomb delegate,
and they never did. We held rock solid, and Milliken.
Well, how close was the vote? Do you remember? Was it pretty close?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
but I assume it was probably close.
Maybe not as close as the U.S. Senate race in Minnesota right now.
Oh,
at least in percentage terms.
Not that way. Not that way. But I imagine, Allison Green was a credible candidate.
He was. In fact, Romney appointed him state treasurer.
That's right.
Which he was for years afterwards.
And Friday night there was rumors, I'm told, all over the convention that Romney really wanted Green.
Mm-hmm.
I don't...
You think that's true? He never said anything publicly.
But still he had Stalin and... No, that was Milliken. You never can trust staff, okay? You don't know what staff. They got their own agenda. But I never believed the rumor, and I told our people not to believe the rumor, and they held solid for Milliken.
Okay, so anyway, so you win this Licata special election in the spring of '67 in Detroit. You hold the Nunnally seat with Dave Sirotkin. Right. Republicans have control. What else happened in '67? And so what about money all during this time? I know money was always a concern in the party. How was it? Harold McClure and Alma and Max Fisher
in Detroit.
Were these the go-to guys that you depended on to raise money? Did you have any other way of raising money during that time?
Well, the party was structured that it had to go through the Finance Committee. State Finance Committee in Detroit. There was a United Republican Fund, which is called the fundraiser down there. One thing, money raisers also want to be politicians, and so they can really mess up. Milliken had his fundraiser, his name was John Stalin.
He was a businessman from Belding in Ionia County, and a state senator. Right.
And that's right. He and Milliken got close when they were in the They were called the moderates in the Senate at the time Milliken was there. McClure made a deal with the legislature in '65, I believe, that the party would raise all the money for them, and if they had fundraisers that came to the party, so we could raise. The party would fundraise, which was fine in theory. It never was going to work, and never did work. And therefore, the legislature would always get mad at the party. And if I were a legislator, I'd have got mad at the party, too. It just wouldn't work. So Ellie inherited a $500,000 debt when she became chairman in 1965.
Mm-hmm.
When I became chairman, I inherited that plus $400,000 from the Milliken campaign, which dumped on the party.
That was 4 years later.
That was 4 years later. But I mean, it was a case of somebody was always constantly rolling over, and then people wanting to know why isn't the party doing things, and it was just had this enormous debt,
One other thing that happened during this time that was kind of an innovation by Ellie and you was the action centers, and a guy named John Martilla. Will you talk about that a little bit?
I would love to. Ellie. She was a brilliant thinker. We both thought that the future of the party had to be in urban areas. That's where the people lived. You had to go after the urban vote. So she came up with I forget what it was, for a statewide thing of getting people to volunteer. Republicans to volunteer as Republicans to help people.
Right.
And in Detroit, she decided to open what she called an action center.
Was that the result of the Detroit riot? Did she have that in place before the riot happened in the summer of '67, or was it kind of an outgrowth of the riot?
I believe it was there before the riot did. And we used the 13th District headquarters as the... she started this in '65, '66.